Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Pain, Heart and Home Healing After Loss. If you are not someone who is ready to change your life, and you are not someone who is ready to take control over anything that they want to improve in their life, then you should stop listening to this episode right now. Because the guest I have with me here today is literally the person who changed it all for me. She is a best-selling author of literally one of my all-time favorite books that I have ever read, and I've read it many, many times. She is the founder of Fit Feels Good, and she has her own incredible podcast, which I just love listening to, especially while I'm working out. Today I have Oonagh Duncan with me. Oonagh, thank you so much for agreeing to chat with me today.
Oh, it's an honor, Emily. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So what I want to do really quick is I want to let everyone know how you changed my life, because the goal I have in mind for us talking today is I want to hit the key points that changed everything for me, because I want everyone who's listening to experience that change as well. So, and keep in mind for everyone who's listening, like, yes, Oonagh is in the fitness industry, okay? Her book is called Healthy AF, and it's all about health and fitness, and that's where her main expertise is. But the thing I want you to keep in mind is this book, it started with fitness for me, but it bled into all areas of my life. So yes, it's a health and fitness book, but these principles can be applied to anything that we are trying to accomplish in life, because it's all about creating habits. And I was just like everyone else. I had tried diets and I had tried the fads, and I was working out 6 days a week while I was in college, and I was never really happy with the way my body looked. And so I yo-yoed and I got frustrated, and I was constantly, quote unquote, falling off the wagon, as we all say. And no matter what my body looked like or what thing I was trying, I was never happy. I was never happy with the way that I looked or felt, even at my skinniest, until this book. And the reason this book changed everything for me is because it shed light on the fact that I was chasing all the wrong things all along. It wasn't that I was necessarily eating all the wrong things or doing all the wrong workouts. It was my mindset. You know, it was the fact that no matter how I looked or felt, I was never happy. And I was also totally clueless about how our minds worked and how to create actual long-lasting habits. And so once I read this book in 2020, when everyone else was gaining weight during quarantine, I was losing weight. Me and my mom were doing this together, when it was the absolute easiest time for anyone to become unhealthy, unhappy, disconnected, totally stuck and alone. My mom and I were getting stronger, we were losing weight, and we were feeling happy again. And it was all because of this book. So now that I have said all that, Oonagh, I want to give you an opportunity to share it with our listeners, because I want everyone to experience this life-changing shift that I've experienced. And so my question for you to start with is, what is this main reason as to why people cannot get these habits in general, but specifically these healthy habits, off the ground?
Well, gosh, that's such a good question. I think like many people are doing what you were doing, and they're just focusing on the wrong thing. And it's not because you're stupid or anything. It's because there are billion-dollar industries that are training you to focus on the wrong thing. Right now, you know, Emily, I think you're younger than I am, but so I'm 48, and my entire feed right now is about perimenopause, menopause, ADHD, hormones, cortisol. Oh, geez, like a million things like that. And I'm not saying that any of those things are not legitimate concerns, et cetera, but they are a distraction from people actually focusing on the basics. And the thing is that the basics are so basic. They're literally things that we hear about in kindergarten. So no one is going to make money selling you a program about eating vegetables, for example, right? So what they have to do, and I get this because I'm also a marketer, I totally understand, is that you have to say, wait, here's the problem, articulate the problem, and here is the brand new solution that you've never tried before. That's what people buy. So they have to present the brand new thing that is, you know, shiny in order for people to buy. If you go up to people and you say, hey, you might want to look at portion control. You might want to start eating more vegetables. You might want to go the fuck to sleep. Oh, it's not a swearing podcast. I'm so sorry. You might want to go to sleep.
Oh my gosh, you're fine.
Okay. Is it okay? All right.
Yes,
you
totally.
might want to go to sleep. You might want to stop drinking so much alcohol. It's not as inspiring, you know, and I can feel people listening to that and being like, I know, but I don't know, like, tell me the real thing because I've tried that. And most people, they do know, yes, I should do these things. And they feel like they've tried it. But what most people have never got to is just doing it consistently. Not falling off the wagon, not having that. Because what most people say when I've tried it is they've tried an extreme version of it for a little while, and then it was not sustainable. So then they fell off the wagon, and then they tried to do it extreme again. So it's the yo-yo dieting effect, and that doesn't work. What does work is consistently doing these super boring things, like eating your vegetables and getting enough sleep and backing away from the booze and exercising consistently. And that's why it's so hard, is because we're marketed to do otherwise, and because we don't know how to make ourselves do it consistently. We don't know how to train our brains to find the dopamine to get addicted to doing these boring things consistently. What is addicting is the rush of the roller coaster. I'm trying this brand new thing now, and it feels really exciting and really rewarding to our brains. And our brains are getting trained to become more and more addicted to that dopamine rush with social media scrolling, with hyper palatable foods, with everything right now is just dialed up to 11, news cycle, everything, right? So we just want that hit. Tell me the new diet, tell me the new thing to be angry about. And so it's a really tough sell to tell your brain, actually, let's really slow down and just get consistent with these basic things that we've been kind of actually plugging away at for a while now.
Yes, I could not have said it better. That is exactly the problem, along with a couple other things that I want to get to in a couple minutes. But like you said, the top 3 secrets to weight loss, like, it's not news to anybody. Like, eat your veggies, get exercise, get enough sleep. Like, wow, shocking. Never heard of those before. It's the problem is not that we need more tips and tricks and whatever. It's we need better habits. And that's what the, oh my God, like, was that light bulb that went off for me.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, what people are really bad at, because I think what they do is they rely on their willpower and their self-discipline.
That's right.
I don't know if that's what you were going to talk about next, but like, I think everybody has this misconception is if I just focus hard enough, and if I just can find that willpower or that self-discipline, or if I beat myself up, that's another thing that you say in the book is like, you're never going to hate yourself into a body that you love. Like, so people rely on all of these things that are fleeting and that they don't last, and then it's absolutely exhausting. And
it's sad because people blame themselves for not having enough discipline and motivation and willpower, when really success just doesn't work that way. It works that way in the movies. You see the main character, the like gang of misfits who like have a burst of motivation, and then they work really hard and they get fit, and then they're just fit for the rest of the movie or whatever. And it just doesn't work that way. And so we have to build these simple system of healthy habits, and it's not that we need more discipline, motivation, and willpower. It's that we need to understand ourselves enough to create these habit loops. And that's the tough part. Yes. It really is.
Yes, and that's exactly what I wanted to ask you about next, is these habit loops, because people don't realize this is like an actual thing that your brain does. This isn't just, if I remember this time, or like, you're not relying on memory, like or your, like, again, your willpower. This is literally how your brain works. And one of the quotes, I'll just read it straight out of the book. It says, if you want results, stop messing around with the trendy diets and counting net carbs, and instead focus on getting control of your habits, because they're running the show. And I love that phrase, running the shows, because it's just the perfect way to simplify things for people. If your habits aren't under control, and if you haven't automated them, you are not going to find success. It's literally impossible. So what my next question was going to be is, can you tell everyone exactly what is this habit loop and how to create one? Because it's basically the opposite of relying on willpower, which is what everyone's trying to do.
Totally. Well, I love that you mentioned that too, because about 40% of the actions in our lives are just habits. You get in the car, you put on a seatbelt, someone sneezes, you say bless you. I mean, your phone text message goes off, you grab your phone. You are not, there's no, your brain is not going, oh, now I'm in the car, now I have to do that. Like, you had a while of having to do that, but now you've done it so often that you don't think about it at all. And that's where we want to get our healthy habits too. It's so important, because if you are constantly relying on the mental function, the discipline, all of that stuff, as soon as your resources are needed elsewhere with trouble in your relationship, a busy time at work, an illness, you're moving, you will not have the resources to execute that mental energy and the willpower to do those things. So you have to make them habits. You have to park these things on autopilot. And I say often for some people are like, well, how do you know if it's really a habit? And here's my test for this, Emily. You might be interested in this. It's not in the book. So if I said to someone, do you have a habit of eating healthy? And they're like, oh, yeah, totally. And I said, great. So are you going to eat healthy 3 Tuesdays from now? And if they're like, well, I mean, it depends. Like, it depends on what work's doing, if I've done groceries or whatever. But if you're a healthy eater, then you're just like, of course I will. That's just who I am. And it becomes an identity and not something you have to think about doing. There's no circumstances that can take away your identity. And I want to clarify that your identity doesn't mean that you're always doing this perfectly at all. It just means this is the home that you always come back to. It is your center. I am a healthy eater. Whenever given the opportunity, I will choose healthy, and I have confidence that I will do that in any situation. Okay, so sorry, back to your question. How do we do this, right? So we want to create healthy habits. So what we got to do is the habit loop, the way your brain forms habits, and you can do this intentionally. Like I said, habits are running the show. They're running 40% of your life. So you might as well be intentional and say, I want this to be a habit. You could have a habit of trigger, it's 6 a.m. Behavior, I get up and do my workout. Reward, I have my coffee, I have my smoothie, I have a little moment of self-gratitude, whatever it is. Okay. So I want to be clear. There's a couple of distinctions here. Your trigger can be anything. It can be the time of day, like that example. It could be an emotional state. Right? It could be a person. Does anybody have a person that triggers them to, like, I've got my bad friend, my friend that I'm like, ooh, let's get naughty, right? Or a place. When I go to my mom's house, it's like comfort food time. It's mummy time, So it could be anything, your trigger. Then you have your behavior, and your behavior can be as simple as, holding open the door for someone, or it can be as complex as, I know you have a lot of mums in your audience. Mums, how, when you are picking up the baby at night, changing the diaper, putting it back, like you could do that in your sleep. You probably do it in your sleep, changing the baby, right. Putting it back. Right. Things like driving yourself to work or whatever your commute to the grocery store is. Like you probably do that on autopilot. You're also listening to a podcast. You're also kind of, disciplining the kids in the back seat. You're doing all that stuff because that way of getting to work or the grocery store is completely on autopilot. You don't have to think about it. So it's about just getting in the repetitions. Trigger, behavior, reward. Trigger, behavior, reward. And so I've talked about the trigger. I've talked about behavior. Really important is the reward. So the reward can be physiological. So I love my coffee in the morning. Oh my gosh, my coffee. So if I get up early and I do, my meditation or whatever, then I get my coffee and I'm so excited for my coffee that's a huge treat for me, right? Or it can be psychological. When I hold open the door for someone, it's kind of subconsciously, I just get a little like, I'm a good person. I'm the kind of person who opens doors for people or whatever, if I say bless you, I mean, there can just be a little thing. You get a little hit. When people post on social media and they see that everyone's like heart, yeah, girl, love you, blah, blah, blah. Psychological, right? This is why it's so addicting. It's because we get those rewards every time. So trigger, behavior, reward. And every time that loop happens, your brain starts to park it into the automaticity part of your brain, the part where you don't have to think about it anymore. It just starts happening. However, every time you break that loop, your brain starts to disassociate the trigger with the behavior and the reward. So if your alarm clock goes up at 6 a.m. and you don't get up and do your workout, your brain starts to think, oh, this is an optional thing. Therefore, when my alarm clock goes up at 6 a.m., I have to think about whether I'm going to do this or not. Which is why one of the key factors that people are so resistant to about building habits is the power of small wins, of doing a teeny tiny version of your habit you can't fulfill. So I'm not saying you have to get up and do a full blown workout every day at 6 a.m. because that is not That's not even the goal. It's not possible, but it's not even the goal. You don't want to have to be like an automaton who always does the thing. You want to be someone who is also responsive to your, your physical state and what's happening. However, if the alarm clock goes off at 6 a.m. and your habit is trigger, my alarm goes off at 6 a.m., behavior, I do my workout, reward, I have my coffee or whatever, even exercise, feelings of endorphins, proud, whatever. If you get up and you just do the teeniest, tiniest version, you do some stretching, you go for a walk around the block, you do something, and then you still give yourself the reward, you're fulfilling that habit loop and you're reinforcing it and you're making it more automatic. But if you have the alarm that goes off at 6 a.m. and you don't do anything, then you're just moving backwards. You're moving towards always have to think about this, always have to use your discipline to do it. And you don't want to be there, which is why I'm like, being gentle with yourself and allowing those small wins is actually more badass. It is more likely to make you successful. Whereas a lot of people beat themselves up and they say, if I can't do it right, I don't do it at all. And I'm like, well, then you are signing yourself up for a lifetime of really having to think about this. And that sucks for you. I don't want that for you.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up because that was huge for me. Like as a perfectionist and someone who's like that mindset exactly. Like if I can't do this amazingly, like I'm not going to do it all because I've always been so concerned about fulfilling that role, like perfectionism. So if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it. And so that was hard for me to make that shift. But oh my gosh, it's freeing because I'm like, wait, I don't have to do this perfectly and I can still be moving towards my goals and strengthening those habits. And I've been in multiple situations where I'm like, I just don't have it today. Like, I just don't feel like going to the gym. And there's been plenty of times where I haven't felt like it and I still do the dang thing because that's just what I do. So, like that's just what I'm working towards is working past those. I don't feel like it. It's like, who feels like doing a lot of things? Like, we're going to do it anyways. But being able to to say like, okay, even if I just do the smallest little version of whatever that habit is, I have noticed such a significant difference in not only the strengthening of those habit loops, but also I haven't been so hard on myself. And like you said, I'm allowing myself to celebrate those wins. And when we're at that point, when we're at that, should I go to the gym or should I skip? If we skip, we remain stuck. But if we take the walk or we get up and stretch or we do 10 minutes of yoga or whatever it is, even if we move this much closer, we're still this much closer than we were if we just say no and remain stuck. And that was a huge turning point. That was one of my favorite things that this book taught me because I was like, oh, yes, I don't have to do this all perfectly. Oonagh said I don't have to.
Amazing. And I just want to clarify there, Emily, when you do the 10 minutes of yoga or go for a walk, it's not that like that action is really moving forward your fitness that much. And because your brain will tell you that like, 10 minutes of yoga is not going to move me towards my fitness goals. That is what your brain is going to say. And it's not about that. It's about maintaining the habit loop. It's also about the fact that once you get going, your beautiful, precious ego is probably going to be like, okay, I walked around the block. I guess I can walk a little bit further. Maybe I can jog a little.
Yes.
Like it's once you break that inertia, your ego put it to work for you, right? Instead of letting your ego tell you, if I can't do it right, I'm not going to do it all. Let your ego say, well, now that I'm doing it, I might as well do it a bit more, once you're in a better mood, once you're moving.
Yes.
And 3, one of the reasons that it is so good for you is it is kryptonite to your BS. And in the book, as you know, I talk about all the different BS stories we tell ourselves about why we can't do these things. And we can get into that, Emily, or the other thing that struck me that we should chat about is why this perfectionism, this being hard on yourself, it doesn't work. We think we're holding ourselves to a higher standard. We think we are not letting ourselves off the hook, but in fact, we are. We are letting ourselves off the hook and we're making it much less likely that we will succeed. It's not setting a higher standard. It's setting a standard of all or nothing, which is really a standard of nothing because no one can do it all the time.
Yes. Totally. And I talk about that a lot with my audience. Like literally just yesterday, I was talking about that. Like, why are we trying to do it all? Like, because I had somebody else on my podcast that we were talking about how people ask us all the time, like, how do you do it all? It's like, I don't. No. Like, as a matter of fact, I do way less. I just am very intentional about the things that I am doing. And right now, one of them is my healthy habits. And I'm very serious about it. And I love that you talked about, cutting the BS because that is also something I was so guilty of. And I think so many people, probably women in general, I don't know, but probably struggle with that. Like, well, I worked out yesterday, or I ate really healthy yesterday, and I'm really stressed right now, so I deserve a day off. It's like, what? Like, I could find an excuse or something to say every single day if I allow myself.
Every day.
And so tying those two things together, like you said, if I just go, no, like I literally don't allow myself to have those conversations, those BS conversations in my head anymore, because I'm like, I know this is total crap. Like, I know that none of this actually makes any sense, and I'm just searching for an excuse to get out of my habit. And so when you go, okay, I'm just going to get up and walk around the block, and you end up walking the 2 miles or the 3 miles instead, you're like, okay, that's why I'm going to stop listening to the BS in my head. So that was another thing that was huge for me and changed everything for me too.
Totally.
Yeah.
And if that sounds harsh, some people might be listening to this and thinking, but I am tired, or I am stressed, or whatever. And if you need a little bit more of a gentle approach, I maybe like you, Emily, I like the shut the fuck up, that's BS, get up, Oonagh.
Yeah.
That works for me. Some people do not like that kind of, they want a little bit more of a gentle approach. So in the days that I need to be more gentle, what you could say is you listen to it, and you say, that makes total sense that I want to skip my workout today. I am tired. I have been up with the kids all night. My knee is kind of hurting me. So it makes total sense that I feel like it might be self-care to skip my workout today. And I know that these kind of thoughts never lead me in the direction that I want to go. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do something so small and so gentle that really honors the fact that I am depleted, that I do need to take care of myself. So instead of being like, that's BS, shut up, a more gentle, loving approach might be, that makes total sense. And I feel like that. I can hear that. And I love myself for having, and I'm going to do the even more loving thing of taking care of myself right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point, because I actually think I'm both of those people. Like, I think the reason I started to, I think the reason I really started like falling in love with it is because I was like, it was the tough love that I needed. Like, I needed the shut up, get up, stop making excuses. But then, I've been through a little bit of life since then. I've been through some things where I'm like, so even just some seasons of life that I needed a little bit of like more gentler conversations. So that is a really good point.
Sure.
And whether you're fall under one category or another, or you're somebody like myself who I have I need different speeches on different days, knowing how to have both of those conversations is really important. So that's a really good point to bring up too.
Yeah. And I think this is something that my industry gets really wrong. I was actually speaking to a friend yesterday who is an Inuit here in Canada and has faced, unbelievable systemic oppression. Her family was, interned, like awful stuff. And she had hired a trainer. She was really excited to get in shape. And her trainer, and at first it went great. She was really digging on the like tough love and all that stuff. And then one day it happened that she really, her physical, her mental, emotional trauma, all that stuff was really laying heavy. And she just said to her trainer, I can't go balls out today. And her trainer was like, STFU, get on it. Like, and in a way, I empathize with that trainer because that's kind of what she got hired for. But she also didn't read the room that really sometimes you have to listen to that. And we do have to understand that we are multidimensional, amazing human beings that cannot. Yes, we want to push to our 100%. Maybe 100% looks very different every day. Very different. And if we don't acknowledge that, then I think that we are going to alienate ourselves, because we're not going to feel like we can trust ourselves to listen to what we really need. And you have to be able to trust yourself.
I really like that, because a lot of my audience are grievers, and specifically like in the baby loss community, because that's my experience. And I really like what you just said. You're giving 100% is great, but 100% looks different every day. And that's super important, because I preach a lot about, when you're grieving, I'm not sure if you've ever dealt with, any sort of devastating loss, but, your body responds physically.
Yep.
And so even though it's important to have these, these habits and that center that you talk about, like that health minded, that center, what 100% looks like is going to look different every single day. And I really like that you just said that, because I want everybody and my audience to understand that knowing that, learning how to be in tune with what that looks like and what state you're at and what stage of grief you're at and all of those things is really, really important. Because when your body is is down and it's suffering, and I was going through all kinds of health issues. God, my husband went through the ringer, like getting up at 5:30 and doing those hard workouts, like that was like the opposite of what my body needed. Now, of course, we needed movement and healthy choices and healthy and nutritious meals and all of those things, but it was okay. But what does my 100% look like today? So I really, really like that.
The other thing I want to say about that, though, is that the danger of that I do sometimes see is that people mistake self-care for a moment of pleasure that feels comforting. So like, for example, I saw this all the time in the pandemic. Everyone was freaking out in the pandemic. It was genuinely really stressful, really scary. People were, isolated, facing financial difficulties, total uncertainty, maybe illness, it was scary. And so I heard a lot of people say things like, I'm going through a really rough time right now, so I'm just going to take it easy on myself and let myself, watch TV or drink or eat yummy food or whatever it is that I need to feel better. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, hold on. Just hold on, because I don't think that's going to make you feel better in the long run. This is not going to make you feel better. And I think that a lot of people had that experience of really letting themselves do whatever they wanted in order to feel good in the moment. And I think a lot of people had the experience of, oh, that freaking backfired. Another example that I give to my clients sometimes is sometimes people say, well, I'm going on vacation, so I'm just going to pause my habits so that I can really, have fun on vacation. And then I'm like, well, are you going to feel better on vacation? We do these habits because they feel good. That's the name of my company is Fit Feels Good. That's why we do this, is there's no other point. So if you've determined that these are the habits that make you feel good, oh my gosh, why wouldn't you want to feel good on vacation?
Right.
But this is the time you want to feel good. When people say, I'm going through a crazy time at work right now, I'm going to pause. I'm like, no, this is when you need your healthy habits the most, because they make you feel good. And if your habits don't make you feel good, then absolutely it's a great idea to revise what those habits are.
Yes, totally. And you always say, I might butcher this, but I think it's diets get paused, habits don't. Or habits, I can't remember how you say it, but who you are. Exactly.
They're who you are. Yeah, it's an identity. Yeah. It's like, are you going to eat healthy 3 Tuesdays from now? Yeah.
You're right. Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's bust this statement that I can't stand, and I know you don't like it. Let's bust the I don't have time for that statement, because like I said, I know you don't like that, and you use this analogy in your book. You say, if you were to ask me right now, what's more important, getting 7 hours of sleep every night or working out every day? And your answer would be to them, what's most important is designing a life that allows you to do both of these absolutely essential things without a trade-off. And I love that, because it eliminates that like victim mentality that everything in our life is not up to me and I have no choice at how busy I am. Because if you're a listener of mine, you know that irks me. And so, but we do. So let's talk about that. So what would you say to someone who is, again, this is your reference, running around like a crazy person most of the time, shoving their face with food, whatever's in front of them, and then frantically trying to burn it off later and never seeing the results that they're looking for?
Oh, it's just heartbreaking, because I get it. I 100% get it. But when someone says something like, what's more important, to sleep or to work out, it's just an immediate sign. Oh, these are the things that you have made optional in your life. Like, can you imagine, has anyone ever said, what's more important, to poo or spend time with my children? I'm like, you need to do both of those things. Like, those are 100% non-negotiable things. If you have to make a choice between either of those things, then the whole life needs a big rework right now. So that's when someone says, should I sleep or should I exercise? I'm like, okay, that should never, ever be a question that goes through your head. Right. And the fact that it just shows how much you are putting yourself on the back burner, because both of those things are absolutely essential for you to exist as a human being. Like, you have to take care of yourself. And when people are like, oh no, you don't understand. I can't, I've got, and they will say things that feel 1,000% mandatory to them. And it's things like my job or whatever. And it is things like, I've got to make a home cooked meal. I've got to walk the dog or whatever. What we have to acknowledge is that every single one of those things are choices. You did choose the job that you have. Right? You could choose a different job. You could choose, there are other choices. And I know a lot of people feel like I have no choice in this, but you do. You could choose to be homeless. We do have agency, right? You could choose to not do a home cooked meal. You could choose to not have a dog. every single thing in your day is your choice. You have to acknowledge that, unless you are an enslaved person, and you probably aren't if you were listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So, and if you are asking yourself if I can sleep or exercise, then I think it's very worth looking at your calendar and saying, do I really need to drive my kids to swimming lessons? Because that's eating up 3 hours of my afternoon. And one of those hours could be my workout. So maybe is my workout as important as my kids? And I have to say that to parents, if your kids, your kids will, do what you do, not what you say. You can say all day long, it's really important to get exercise. But if they see you not exercising, then they're going to think exercising is kid stuff that eventually you grow out of, because adults don't do that. So the best thing you can do for your kids' health is to model an adult who takes care of themselves. That's what you want. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I really like that, actually. Yeah. And another thing you talk about in the book is, if everyone will continue to demand things from you, your husband, your kids, your friends, your work, your church life, whatever the heck it is, if you let them. But it's your responsibility to create those hard boundaries of when you're available and when you're not. Like, putting yourself first is not selfish, it's responsible. And you talk about that a lot in the book too. And again, that was a huge game changer for me, because I'm like, yeah, like that's this all boils down to me not making my health and my needs a priority. And I get it. We have families. Like, we all get it. If you're an adult woman and you have a family or a home or some other responsibility other than yourself, I get it. There's so many things that you have to do, well, that you feel like you have to do, I should say.
Yeah.
But really, it all boils down to, like you said, like, what are the non-negotiables? Your priority list is way out of whack, because if you have to decide between two very essential things to a long, healthy life, like, it sounds like your priorities need some reworking. And that is one of the things that made me literally reevaluate everything. Like, whoa, like, I shouldn't have to be giving up, eating healthy because I don't even know what I was doing at the time when I first read this book. It's like, but that's my point. It wasn't that important. It wasn't that life-changing. It should never have been a non-negotiable for me. But it is for a lot of people. We treat a lot of these things like they're non-negotiables, and really they're choices that we are making totally consciously. And I think that's where a lot of people have problems.
I'm so curious, Emily. Do you remember anything about the shifts that you made? What you let go of to create more space for self-care?
So, well, okay. Like I said, when I first read this book, it was back in 2020, and it was literally during quarantine. I can't remember if it was right before quarantine when I read the book, or if it was I read the book, then quarantine happened, so I was like, oh, I have no excuse now. So I can't remember exactly that timeline. So when I first read the book, that is when it was all about health and fitness for me. So like I said, when everybody was gaining weight, I was losing weight. I was prioritizing all of the habits that you mention in this book over everything else. And I guess maybe I was a little lucky in that way, because we were all quarantined. We were locked in our house with nothing else to do. But again, I made the conscious choice to go, I can either sit on the couch and eat potato chips all day like most of America, or I can get up and make this my time, to put these habits into place. Then over the next couple of years is when I really, and especially in 2022, when our lives got flipped upside down, is when I was like, okay. And like I said, I come back to this book every once in a while. Like, I would say a couple times a year, I flip through the pages of this book and I remind myself all of the things. And so I would say recently, the things that I have been more conscious about is simple things. What I'm doing for work. Like, not just working that 9 to 5 because that's what most people do, like, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, and yes, the bills have to be paid. And yes, I'm very blessed to have a husband who, has a full-time job and makes an income, but it's not like we're rolling in the cash. Like, I have made sacrifices and I have made conscious choices to be doing the work that I'm doing right now, and have made, like, the sacrifices, meaning financially, to consciously choose to build what I'm building right now. And so that was huge for me as far as like work is concerned. And obviously like the health and fitness, again, I don't want to get too derailed, but like my husband, after our daughter had died, his health spiraled. He has had Crohn's and colitis for a couple of years now, but his Crohn's he's actually had for like over a decade. I don't remember how long it was, but and all of those things like started to really, really spiral after our daughter had passed, and so that was another wake up call for me. And when I went back to the book after things were, I mean, we literally were in the hospital for 50 days straight. Like we were in survival mode. He was literally fighting for his life. And so afterwards it was like, okay, I got my book out and I reminded myself of all of the things. And so the foods that we eat, like I don't buy boxed processed food, like literally I barely shop in the dry aisles like at the store. We eat meats and we eat fruits and we eat, whole unprocessed foods. And so I guess my answer to that question is it's been a journey. It's been a couple years of picking little things out one at a time to kind of get to where I am today, which is anything that comes up in my life or my schedule, I evaluate it like everything depends on it, because I know how easy it is to allow that schedule to get filled up and to allow my life to get too busy in order for me to be successful in things like my healthy habits, getting sunshine, getting fresh air, and getting my butt outside. Spending quality time with my family is another one. Like all of these things are, I'm totally guilty of using that. I don't have time for that. Like I wore it like a badge of honor. Again, I talk about that all the time. I wore that busyness like a badge of honor. Now it's like, I'm the one suffering when I do that. I'm the one missing out on the things that are really important in life. When I like pride myself in my busy life, I'm missing out on health and longevity and quality time and deep relationships and, healthy habits and all of these things. And so that's a long rambling answer to that question, but it's been small shifts over the years that have brought me to this day where everything I do is a conscious choice. But for real, it all started with your book. I can't rave about it enough. And because again, that's one of the things you talk about is this is another thing that hit me when it comes to specifically like my body, because I've always dealt with like, what's the word I'm looking for? I've just always dealt with appearance, my appearance, and having insecurities and and one of the things that you talk about is learning to choose your efforts consciously, and then your only job is to be happy with those results. Like to stop stressing about all of the things that we stress about when it comes to health and fitness and realize like we have to take radical responsibility for the results that we see. Like look down, like this is a result of the choices that you've made. So you need to be happy with them and genetics. Yes, of course. You do talk about that for sure. Yes. But that made a huge difference to me because you use that term, outsourcing the responsibility of your health. And I was like, that's literally what I've been doing. Like every excuse that I can come up with, I outsourced that responsibility. And it wasn't until you were like, nope, these are your choices. Like this is a result of, like you said, your genetics and your choices. So your job is to just be happy with them.
Right. Yeah. Or change your choices. So you can do two things. You can either decide on the body that you want, and then you just got to make your peace with the effort that it's going to take to get there. And it could be, depending on your genetics, it could be really fucking hard. Okay. Yeah. Or you decide on the effort that you are willing to give or that you are able to give right now. And then your only job is to be happy with the body that is a result of that effort. That's all you have to figure out. You decide, do I want this body? Okay, then I got to make peace with the effort. Or this is the effort I'm willing to give. Now I make peace with the body that is the result of that effort. Either way, it's fine. The peace part is what matters. And this is the real work.
Yes. And that is what I want to talk about next, because this is where all of the results are going to come from. And you talk about these keystone habits. So I want to talk about those because it's you talk about that we get 80% of those results that we're looking for, like the real results are from 20% of our effort.
That's right.
And
Yep.
that is crazy. So can you explain what those keystone habits are and why they're so
Right.
important for us?
Yeah, so like I said, most of your life is run on autopilot with these habits. We can consciously choose the habits that we want to install with the trigger behavior reward by intentionally figuring out what's going to be my trigger, what is the behavior, and how am I going to reward this behavior. And just a little side note, Emily, what is hardest for many women, and I'm sure especially your audience, is figuring out what is that reward. We feel like, no, I'm just going to do it because I'm supposed to do it. And therefore, all we're doing is we're relying on more discipline and more beating ourselves up to do it. We actually have to, your brain responds to feeling rewarded, and it will keep doing that thing that makes it feel rewarded. So work with your brain and give yourself a reward. And like I said, that can be a physiological reward, a psychological reward, whatever. Okay, so you figured out your habit loop. But the thing is, oh my gosh, right now, there is so much out there that we are supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be getting a gram of protein per body weight. We are supposed to be getting 25 grams of fiber. We're supposed to be getting at least 10,000 steps. We're supposed to be lifting heavy weights. We're supposed to be doing, can't remember if we're supposed to be doing zone 2 cardio or not zone 2 cardio these days. It switches all the time. We are also supposed to be getting 8 hours of sleep, and we're also supposed to be stretching and mobility. And but like, honestly, we could spend all day, every day working on all of these health initiatives that we are supposed to be doing. What I'm saying is that there are the 7 habits of highly healthy MFers that I talk about in my book. And these are the ones that really matter. This is the 20% effort that's going to give you 80% of your results. And that's what I call a keystone habit, the one that really matters. So a keystone habit is like the one habit that sets off a ripple effect that has all these amazing results. So for example, I used to teach boot camp classes at like 6 a.m. in the parks in Toronto. And I had a client who came up to me after, I don't know how many sessions, but she was like, oh my gosh, I've lost 40 pounds since I've started doing this boot camp. This boot camp is amazing. Like, tell me the secret exercise. And I'm like, oh, honey, there's no secret exercises. Here is what's happening. It's you are getting up early and you are going to this thing, and then you exercise. And then afterwards, you're feeling like so proud of yourself. You've been outside, you've worked really hard, you've been with people and social, you're feeling amazing. So you want to eat a healthy breakfast. You don't feel like having a donut and a coffee after that. You want to have something healthy and whatever. Then you probably, when you get home, you probably have time to make yourself like a nice healthy lunch that you bring to work. You're going through work feeling really energized, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, you have time to spend with your family. You've got your workout already done in the morning. Fantastic. And then you go to sleep early and you don't drink alcohol because you know you have to get up really early to do your workout. It's not that it's a magical workout. It's that is a keystone habit that is setting off this ripple effect throughout your day, which is having these incredible results. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, let's not talk about all the little things that don't matter so much and really focus on the things that big time matter. And they are things that are so simple. They were literally probably a poster in your kindergarten classroom. And that's why you've probably been ignoring them. So one, fill half of every plate with vegetables. If fat loss is a goal for you, that is going to take care of a lot of your caloric restraint, I guess, caloric control. Half of your plate, it's also going to help you with the vitamins and the minerals and the fiber and the blah, blah, blah. And then, so that's one, just fill every plate. Most people, when they are focusing on a meal, they're like, right, how am I going to get my protein? What's going to be my starch on the side, blah, blah, blah. No, like vegetables. Think vegetables first, and then you add the other stuff in. Okay. Secondly, am I going to remember all these? Go the F to sleep, right? If you are underslept, and I know mamas, I know you're underslept and it's not your fault. I totally get it. However, if you are chronically underslept, it has the same effect on your brain as being drunk. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are like, oh yeah, 100%. Makes you less able to focus, grumpier, less likely to do a workout, more likely to crave high energy foods that are high in sugar and high in fat. I mean, not sleeping enough consistently is not great for you. Back away from the booze. I mean, if you have any health goals at all, I actually love alcohol, so I hate saying this, but if you have any goals that are healthy, like alcohol is definitely taking away from them. It interrupts your sleep. It's empty calories. It lowers your inhibition. So you're likely to eat unhealthy food. You're unlikely to do a workout or perform very well in your workout. It's a total shit show. Don't do it, or reduce it as much as you can. Right. What else? Exercise consistently. It does not have to be heavy weights. It doesn't have to be HIIT. It doesn't have to, like, really just get consistent first and train your brain in the very important association, the biggest, best muscle you could be building right now, if you are not yet consistent, is the association with exercise as fun and enjoyable. If you can just do whatever movement gives you enough of a like endorphin at the end that you're like, oh, that feels good. And then you start training yourself where you feel successful and kind of energized at the end. That's how I know. This is how I tell my clients, how do you know you're exercising an appropriate intensity level? You should be energized at the end, not exhausted. So you got to start training that habit loop. Super important. Also, one of the habits is to meditate. And I get so much resistance on this. People are like, what? I've got so much to do and I've got to exercise and you're telling me to sit down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. So much of the work of you getting healthy, as I'm sure you've kind of realized by now, is happening in your head. It's managing your thoughts. And the way you start to train yourself to be able to do that, to catch those BS stories, to catch the moment where you say, I'm going to do this all or nothing, to catch yourself having mean thoughts about yourself. You are going to start to train your brain to do that during meditation, and you're going to calm down. My favorite story for this, if you've got a second for a story, Emily, does that work?
Oh, yeah.
And I tell it in the book, is when I was doing my first yoga teacher training certification, my teacher told this story that he was substituting at a class. And if there's any other fitness instructors listening, you know how brutal it is, or maybe teachers too, to be a substitute teacher. Everyone's super attached to the normal teacher. You walk in, they're like, well, it's not this person. They're all kind of like, who are you anyway? So he's substituting, and there was a woman who's in the front of the class, and you guys know this woman. She's like front and center. She's been going to this class for 10 years. She's the queen of the class. She's like protecting her space, prowling around like she's that girl. And then he starts by being like, okay, let's just connect to our breath. Let's do a few head rolls. And she was like just getting visibly agitated. And then he says, are you okay? Like, is something wrong? And she was like, yeah, listen, I got to burn 500 calories. So can we get on it? And then he said, well, maybe if you stay still long enough, you'll figure out why you eat 500 calories too much. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah. It's one of those situations where often if you slow down, you will speed up, which is why meditation is one of the 7 habits. And portion control is another habit. I don't know if we're on 7 now, if I've said all of them, Emily, maybe you're counting, but portion control, really, I would say, especially when I was doing a lot of one-on-one training and I worked with very high-end clients, and these are clients who are super into health and can afford a high-end trainer to come to their home. Like, they're not messing around about this. They are not eating junk food. They're not whatever. And almost always, if they have extra fat, it's because they're eating too much of that healthy food. Most people have no idea what an appropriate portion is. So for example, the example I always give that breaks people's heart, an appropriate portion of fat is the size of your thumb. So everyone, look at your gorgeous little cute thumb. And I want you to look at it and say, that is the portion of cheese that is appropriate for a meal. That is the appropriate portion of avocado, of nuts. Yeah. And like, my thumb is super cute and adorable, but oh my gosh, it's not representative of my instinctual portion of cheese, nuts, salad dressing, etc. So I'll just say appropriate portions is usually a huge, and now I remembered the 7th. In order to fill half your plate with vegetables, to get the appropriate portions, the biggest, and this is what I will often start people with before I even get you moving, is meal prep. If you can give me only one, if you're like, do not have the time, and if fat loss is a goal, I'll say, if you can give me 1 hour of your week and only 1 hour, you're like, there's no way you could squeeze in a half hour workout 3 times a week, but you can give me 1 hour. I would say, please spend that doing meal prep. Because if you have healthy, beautiful, ready to eat meals in your fridge, you're going to eat healthy, beautiful food. If not, you're going to eat whatever's available when you're starving. And if you're underslept and you stress, it's just not going to be a good situation. And that's often the result there. So meal prep is super important.
Yes, definitely. Meal prep is, I think, probably number 1 for me. When I'm doing it, I see so many more results because I am I'm not anymore. Well, at least I try not to be. Like, I would say my biggest struggle is mindless eating. Like, and it's not like, I sit down and have a whole bag of potato chips. I'm not that kind of person. It's, like, I just like pick and whatever. And I'm like, it's not that big of a deal because one at a time, it's really not. But it's like, okay, but when that's all I do all day. So I am guilty of that. And the meal prep is huge. I just want to touch on one more thing really quick because
Sure.
this is so trendy right now. And you mentioned that people's ideas of portions are so out of whack, and it's so true. This protein kick that everybody's on. You say in your book, and this is when you wrote the book, which was several years ago now,
2017.
like that the average person is eating way too many calories and excess protein. Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, that many years ago, you had already said this. People are eating way too many calories and excess protein. And you can, and the biggest misconception is that, like, oh, if I just eat protein, like, I can't gain weight. Now, I know that there are stories out there of people, lots of people are carnivore right now. My husband's carnivore, and he's gained a lot of weight since, like, he was trying to because he had lost a lot of weight because of his health issues. So it's, like, good, but it's, like, my point is all he eats is protein, and he has gained a ton of weight. So that stigma that you can just eat all this protein and, like, not gain any weight is crazy. And like I was saying, I know there's a lot of people out there that do eat carnivore or they focus on high protein and they have success. It has to be accompanied with other things. But I just want to give you an opportunity to just tell everybody who's listening, like, what is the issue with like protein, because it's marketed as this health food. And because of that, people think they can eat as much as they want of it. So, like, what's the problem with that?
I mean, I will not demonize protein. Protein is one of the 3 essential macronutrient categories. You 100% need it, but people don't quite understand what it's for. So protein will build and repair muscle, which is fantastic. And because there's all this emerging research that shows how important muscle is, especially as we age, people are like, oh, what makes muscle? Protein. Fantastic. Let's load up on the protein, therefore the muscle, therefore the et cetera, et cetera. However, what they're missing is that protein will only build muscle if your body is under enough stress to require more muscle to be built. Therefore, the muscle is actually coming when you are doing badass workouts that are challenging your muscles to the point that they are like, holy crap, I cannot continue to do this work unless I get bigger and stronger. Okay, you cannot sit in your car scarfing protein bars and core power drinks and think that you are doing anything good for building muscle. You're doing that when you are doing push-ups. Right? That's what's building the muscle. And then eating adequate protein will 100% support the growth of that muscle. 100%. But adequate protein is, most North Americans are totally easily consuming twice what is the minimal. So 100%, most of us are beyond exceeding adequate protein. This is 100% not a worry for most North Americans. However, only 1 in 9 North Americans is eating adequate fruits and vegetables. So I'm just like, protein is probably like 99.999% not a problem for you. What is probably a problem for you is eating more fruits and vegetables. What is probably a problem for you is consistently exercising and getting enough exercise and doing enough intense exercise in order to stimulate muscle growth. Most likely, according to all statistics, that is where you should be focusing. Most people focusing on getting more protein, like that is not the problem. And protein has 4 calories per gram, as does carbohydrate, and fat has 9 calories per gram, which is why it's such a tiny, miserable portion that is appropriate for a plate, right? So protein is not free. Like, if you want to gain weight, you eat an excess of calories. And it doesn't matter if that is in protein or Snickers bar for fat, for gaining weight. It very much matters for health. If you want to reduce, if you want to lose body fat, you have to be in a caloric deficit. And the best way to do that is to focus on the caloric amount first, then achieving the adequate amount of protein, which everyone is pretty much doing, no problem, and filling half of your plate with vegetables and all that sort of good stuff. So really, half your plate with vegetables, a palm-sized amount of protein, a thumb-sized amount of fat, and a fist-sized amount of whole grains or something like that. If you just keep doing that, all of this is taken care of for you. You don't have to track anything. You're getting enough protein. And if you want to be building muscle, then you've got to work hard and you got to build that muscle.
Yeah. Yeah. And That, and you said a lot of really good info right there, and probably some people are listening and like, whoa, like that was a lot. But the thing is what you just did was you actually simplified it. You simplified everything that's out there. You made it way less complicated than all of the fads and the diets and the things out there, and you simplified it. And the thing is you don't have to think about it every single time, because what we're doing here is we're building those habits. And the point of Oonagh's whole message is that if you want to stop thinking about this, we need to start making them automatic. And that is the whole point of your book. And that is why it is so life-changing. And I just want to offer one more thing, if you just have a couple more minutes. Because I think this will resonate a lot with my audience. Everything we've talked about here, it all comes down to, taking responsibility for your health and ultimately your life. And it's totally true. And all of the things we talked about always remains. But I want to just mention to people who are listening who maybe feel a little bit overwhelmed, or they're in a more overwhelming season of their life, that there's, of course, always grace in seasons of life where you're not living in your most optimal circumstances. For example, some things that were in my life, recovering from birth, and mine was even more traumatic than most, or getting past a really devastating loss, or just when life events simply take over temporarily. And I mention these things because they're very real topics for me. And my point in bringing these up is the women, or just people in general who go and they flow through these seasons. Maybe a 1 hour HIIT workout just you really feel like is not doable right now. And even if you are, you read the book and you listen to the podcast and you're like, I'm just in a season of life right now. I'm recovering from this, or I'm dealing with this. I just can't do the 1 hour HIIT workout or whatever. I want to just offer them this solution that you mention in your book, because this is something that I have tried to adopt, and it really makes a difference. And it's the acronym is NEAT, and it stands for, I'm going to pronounce this hopefully correctly, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It sounds complicated, but it's very simple in theory. And instead of me rambling about it, I just want to give you an opportunity to just tell people what that is, and if we're in an overwhelming season of life, how we can utilize this over, okay, I really can't do that 1 hour HIIT workout right now, but I do really want to take this seriously. What can I do? So like, what is that? And like, how can they like utilize that in their lives?
Oh, totally. Well, first of all, I'll say an hour HIIT is like, whoo-wee, that's hard. I like for my clients, I have them do like half hour kind of tops, 20 minutes to half hour if we're doing HIIT, and that's really going for high intensity. So I'll just put that there. NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So in every fitness conference and stuff that I've gone to, it is so emphasized that this is one of the most overlooked areas of fitness that actually has a huge benefits on not only our health, but our body composition. And that's basically saying it's any sort of movement that you're doing that is not like exercise. It's not a workout. So that is everything from like fidgeting at your desk. I'm at a standing desk right now, so I have a lot of NEAT because I shift from side to side and kind of do that sort of thing. If you sit on one of those balls, that's making dinner, that's going for a walk. It's like walking around a mall, walking to and from the car. Like it's even just going to the bathroom. Like one thing that I'll tell people, if you are at a sedentary job where you're at your computer, like, all of us mostly, I'll tell people to often set a timer for 50 minutes and you focus. So that 50 minutes, you're like, right, in the next 50 minutes, I'm going to get to my, get through my inbox. I'm going to accomplish this one task. When the timer goes off, you get up, 10 minutes, you walk around, do something, go pee because you're drinking all the water. I tell people to drink tons of water and you go pee, whatever. Have a little mini dance break. You just do some sort of movement for the 10 minutes and then you sit down and then you focus again. And you will find you are so much more productive and you're getting all this little movement. And it's this little movement throughout the day that is actually more responsible for burning more calories throughout the day than often people's like half hour, 20 minutes of HIIT. People really overemphasize. So for example, if you go to a spin class every day and you are like, spin class, like woof, like there is water on the floor underneath your bike, you are working hard. And then if you go and you park it at a desk for the next 8 hours, you probably would have been better to just get up every 50 minutes and do a little movement, a couple of jumpy jacks, a little dance party, whatever. And it can be so much more gentle and so much more easily integrated into your day than having that really kind of sectioned off area of your life that you're like, this is my fitness, and you go balls out, and then the rest of your day you're sitting. That's not as healthy. So NEAT, really under emphasized, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm so glad I asked, because honestly, I was going to skip it, but I think that's going to resonate with a lot of my listeners, because there's probably a lot of people listening who are sitting in nursing all day, or they're homeschooling their kids, or things like that. And it's like this isn't, like you said, an underutilized way of living that really can make a huge difference, like in our health and fitness journey. So thank you for explaining that, because that is huge, and it's really made a difference in my life too.
Great.
All right. Well, we are definitely running out of time. But really quick, I just want to wrap up for everybody listening. This book changed everything for me, because even though it started out as me learning to create habits for myself to get myself healthier, it led me to realizing that I have control over a lot more areas in my life, and that I've simply just been a victim, for a very long time to my schedule and just things of life. And so this book was the ultimate motivator for me to take radical responsibility for not only my health, but everything else in my life as well. And so on top of all the things we talked about here today, she also offers actual resources in her books, like tips on how to eat less, and step-by-step how to do the food prep, and links to actual recipes. Like, it's all in the book. And so there's so many reasons to buy this book, so go buy it. But Oonagh, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so glad you were here to share all this goodness with my followers of all of these things that I are just now like second nature to me, that I do in my everyday. But one last thing before we sign off, I want to give you an opportunity to just share with everyone where they can buy your book, where they can follow you, how to connect with you, all those things.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, guys, I would love to meet you. So come follow me on Instagram. It's at Oonagh Duncan. I'm sure Emily will leave a link in the show notes or whatever. And yeah, dude, if you want all the goodies, go to fitfeelsgood.com/free. And there's all of my free downloads. I've got like a Get Fit starter kit and, a bazillion free resources that you can use. And then, you can buy my book anywhere. If you like the Audible, I don't know if you've got a hard copy there, Emily, but the Audible, me reading it, then I get to be in your ears. You get to hear my Canadian accent, just telling you what to do. So I really highly recommend the Audible. And if you do get the book, you go to fitfeelsgood.com/book. And there's another bazillion free resources to go with the book. And if you do follow me on Instagram, please say hi in the DMs. I really genuinely love meeting them. I answer all of those. If you have any questions about fitness, if you heard me say some stuff about protein, you were like, wait, what? Dr. Blah, blah, blah says blah, blah, blah. I know it. You are welcome to come and say hi.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to everyone who is listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Oonagh, and that you are leaving here feeling super pumped and ready to take control of your new life and all your new healthy habits. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more episodes just like this one. I can't wait to chat with you all again really soon. Signing off for now, your hope dealer, Emmy Smaz.